Good morning. Welcome to this Zoom Plus hybrid service. Zoom Plus means that it's being recorded and broadcast live to various members and friends at their home or elsewhere. And I'm pleased that my colleague Richard Trudeau is here in the service this morning, and he's going to light the chalice and say a few words about the lighting of the chalice.
We gather this hour as people of faith, having sorrows and joys, needs and gifts. And we like to speak of hope as a sign of our quest for truth and meaning and in celebration of the life we share together.
Thank you, Richard. We're now going to have our opening hymn, number 34. Slight correction. Though I may speak with bravest fire. Matthew. Though I may speak with bravest fire and have the gift to inspire, and have not love, my words of it, as sounding brass and hopeless gain. Though I may give all I possess in striving so, my love profess, but not be given my love within. The prophet soon turned strangely thin. Spirit come, our hearts control, Spirits love, by this you are invited to join with me in the affirmation of our covenant, selection number 471 in the hymnal. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. Thank you. This is our time for sharing of joys and concerns. Does anyone have a joy or concern they would wish to?
Yes, the House of Hope, where I serve as a minister and as a psychologist, has 6 COVID cases at the moment, so we do some prayers and maybe some vaccine too.
Yeah. Yes?
I just wanted to comment how beautiful church is looking. So happy and happy to be back. And so grateful for all our friends who have taken such good care of the church, for knowledge, for helping us to figure out how to work that as well, and moving together and
Okay. Please.
I'd like to say, my joy for today is to be here amongst everyone. I'm new to the Unitarian Church here in Fall River, but I was blessed at the time in Bedford when I entered the Unitarian Church about 8 years ago and found a new beginning of my life that changed. And I'm blessed to be here with everyone here. And I would love to continue each week with you guys here, doing the Zoom live and helping everyone else. God bless you. Thank you.
Blessings on you, and thank you for sharing. Yep. Do we have any others? May the thoughts of our minds and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in the sight of the divine. Blessed be. I invite you to turn to the responsive reading that you'll find printed in the order of service, titled To Love Truth. And it was composed by my predecessor at the First Parish Church in Norwell a long time ago, John Kolbjørnsen. And moreover, he married my late wife and I before we came to be ministers, as you might say, at the First Parish Church in Norwell. To love truth, even when it is harsh and painful, to recognize truth in the midst of many falsehoods, to revere all goodness, whatever its setting, to be able to see beauty, even though there is much that is ugly. To keep the imagination of a child amid the experience of maturity. To be patient in the face of mysteries beyond our human ken, to seek understanding of ourselves and others. To hear the discourse that is a part of life and not be afraid of it. To take that discord and create order out of it. To prove all things and hold fast to that which is beautiful and true. Thank you. I invite you to join with me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Most intimate, most ultimate power of being in all things, who art within us, without us, and far, far beyond us, ever present within the movements of the farthest stars and galaxies, yet closer to us than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Source of our quest for the holy and our longing for wholeness. In the depths and heights of all being, be ever within us as a healing spirit of creation, restoration, and reconciliation. In body and in soul, in our living and in our dying, help us to become one with thee and with each other. Father, mother, sister, brother, friend, and lover, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. Blessed be. Amen. The offering for the work of this beloved church and parish will now be received. sing in my heart all the strings of compassion. Oh, in the wind, rise in the sea, moving, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. When I was a theological student many years ago at Andover Newton, when it was in Newton Center before it moved to the Yale Divinity School, one of the great popular theologians of that time was Dr. Paul Tillich. And he was a German derivation, physically and spiritually, and then was brought here during the war, just after the war, and he became a professor at Union Seminary and then at Harvard Divinity School. I remember sneaking away from one of my classes at Andover Newton to go hear Dr. Paul Tillich at Harvard. Ooh, what a treat that was. Well, he was popular not only for his great theological mind, but also for his ability to touch the common person with his sermons. His books of sermons were bigger bestsellers than his systematic theology books. Well, anyway, here's a quote from one of his sermons called "The Depth of Existence." The wisdom of all ages and of all continents speaks about the road to our depth. It has been described in innumerably different ways, but all those who have been concerned, mystics and priests, poets and philosophers, simple people and educated people, with that road through confession, lonely self-scrutiny, internal or external catastrophes, prayer, contemplation, all have witnessed to the same experience. They have found that they were not what they believed themselves to be, even after a deeper level had appeared to them below the vanishing surface. This road to our depth, said Tillich, leads from the surface of our self-knowledge into levels where things are recorded which we knew nothing about on the surface of our consciousness. It shows us traits of character which contradict everything that we believed we knew about ourselves. It can help us to find the way into our depth, although it cannot help us in an ultimate way, because it cannot guide us to the deepest ground of our being and of all being, the depth of life itself. The name of this infinite and inexhaustible depth and ground of all being is God. That depth is what the word God means. And if that word has not much meaning for you, translate it and speak of the depths of your life, of the source of your being, of your ultimate concern, of what you take seriously without any reservations. Perhaps in order to do so, you must forget everything traditional that you have learned about God. Perhaps even that word itself. For if you know that God means depth, you know much about God. You cannot then call yourself an atheist. For you cannot think or say, life has no depth. For he who knows about depth knows about God. Wow. Here ends the reading from Dr. Paul Tillich. It still speaks to the soul, does it not? How many of you, I wonder, recall that former Saturday Night Live comic named Jack Handy and his spoof that he would do from time to time about deep thoughts? Well, those of you who recall that would remember that he was the guy who offered inspiration for the uninspired with thoughts so deep they squeak. Of course, it was all a spoof on people like us who think they're profound, but not really as much as we might think. And here are a few samples of Jack Handy's deep thoughts. Sometimes the beauty of the world is so overwhelming, I just want to throw back my head and gargle. Just gargle and gargle. And I don't care who hears me, because I'm beautiful. You know, sometimes he goes on, I think the world has gone completely mad, and then I think, who cares? And then I think, hey, what's for supper? Well, instead of having answers on a math test, they should call them impressions. And if you have a different impression, well, so what? Can't we all be brothers? When this girl at the museum asked me whom I like better, Monet or Manet, I said, I like mayonnaise. She just stared at me. And I said it again louder, mayonnaise, and then she left, I guess, to find some mayonnaise for me. Well, I hope that after I die, people will say of me, that guy sure owed me a lot of money. If God dwells inside us, like some people say, I sure hope he likes enchiladas, because that's what he's getting. Jack Handy, huh? Well, folks, this morning's sermon is about a religion of depth. It will presumably be a bit more serious than Jack Handy's deep thoughts, but in case I take myself too seriously, I'll try to remember that a good hearty laugh can be a pathway to the depths, no less than tears and somber thoughts. And as you've guessed, my inspiration for this morning's reflection is drawn from the late Protestant theologian Paul Tillich and his sermon, The Depth of Existence. Well, I had the pleasure of hearing Tillich speak in person at a Harvard lecture, and again at the Pacific School of Religion in Berkeley, California, during an intern year in the campus ministry way back in 1963. And a group of us drove down from Corvallis, Oregon, at the university there, to hear him. The place was packed, absolutely packed. And there was a profundity indeed about Tillich's thought and his personal presence that touched the mind and the soul in a deep way. The fact that he spoke with a thick German accent and with language drawn from ancient Greek philosophy of being, ontology, made that sense of profundity all the more intriguing. In spite of his accent and his use of philosophy, Tillich somehow connected with his audience. He made you feel that though his mind may be far above yours, he nonetheless took you with him. And you felt that you had touched deep and profound truths of life and being. Of course, I don't remember literally what he said that day, but his use of the metaphor of depth as a symbol of the soul and of God was what had drawn me to his thought and person in the first place. He did not disappoint. Tillich noted that the word depth denotes a dimension of space that can become a symbol of a spiritual and psychological quality. I remember seeing the Grand Canyon for the first time some 20 plus years ago when the UUA General Assembly was held in Arizona. And though my late wife Ellie and I had seen many pictures of the Grand Canyon over the years, nothing could have prepared us for the real thing. It literally took our breath away. The depth and the height and the breadth of the canyon simply staggers the mind and the senses. One understands why the vastness of it all makes people think of God and the divine source of creation. Why wouldn't? My late colleague and friend Bob Thayer told the story of being down at the bottom of the canyon on a clear, cloudless night during the transit of the Hale-Bopp comet. Remember that, guys? I remember that one. So I'm standing out in my front door at the First Parish Church in Monroe, looking up at the sky. Oh God, there it is, Hale-Bopp. Well, old Bob Thayer, he got the whole thing, the context of everything. He got it all. The vastness of the canyon combined with the infinite reaches of the heavens above, marked by the divine signature of a passing comet. Who could ask for more? Mountains, canyons, the oceans, the heavens, they're all powerful metaphors of the divine and also of the depths of the human mind and imagination. A person of deep thought, well, with the possible exception of Jack Handy, is presumably the opposite of one who is shallow. I can remember an expression that when I was a young person that we used as a kind of a put down to someone who lacked any intelligence or depth. And we would say, he's about as deep as the back of a spoon, which is pretty shallow, huh? Everything we see with our physical eyes, everything has a surface, but the truth of that thing or person often dwells below the surface of the depths. A surface symptom of the body can often be a manifestation of a deeper malady, which can only be corrected by a surgical procedure, which requires our going deeper into the body. Likewise, the human soul and personality. We may reveal one level of truth on the surface, but Each of us contains a deeper and maybe a contrary source of truth in the depths of the psyche. We are all of us more than we appear on the surface. What you see is not always what you get. Well, Tillich noted that the advent of depth psychology, which was very popular back then, still is, I guess, and that he said that it had revealed unconscious dimensions of the self that were heretofore unknown, at least to the average person. Still waters run deep, we used to say, still do, I guess, to connote the hidden depths in someone who does not say very much. But folks, we're all of us more complex than we know. It's not just that we don't know the deeper thoughts and feelings of other persons that are hidden from us, but that we often are unaware of those same depths that are within ourselves. The truth be told, we can never get to the bottom of knowing who and what we are. There will always be a deeper truth to be known, and still more that we can never know. The great Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung talked about various levels of the human psyche, beginning with what he called the persona, which was the surface personality we reveal to the world. The clothing of the ego, as it were, how we appear to others. But as we move deeper into the psyche, we come upon the shadow, the repressed impulses, desires, and aspirations, both good and bad, that are part of who we are, and which we must own if we are ever to achieve a sense of wholeness. Going deeper, we meet the unconscious opposite of our sexual identity. The male within the female within the male. And now you got people that have both and, not either or. We go deeper still and we sense our connection with the ultimate source of life and of being, the imago Dei, the divine image, or the spark within the human soul. It is a journey into the depths, and it is not without its portion of pain and suffering along the way. One of the things that Tillich emphasized in his great sermon is that deep things or deep thoughts are not to be confused with so-called sophisticated things, which only an educated mind can grasp. No, he said, the mark of real depth is its simplicity. Its simplicity. Nothing of real importance is too profound for anyone. Even a Jack Handy has hidden depths that neither words nor expression can truly reveal. The problem is we often seek to run away from our own depths because of our anxiety and our fear of what we may find there. Some of you may remember the byline from the old radio show, The Shadow. I used to listen to it as a kid. The shadow, what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows. Well, there's unpleasantness there. Yeah, but you know, there's also gold in them thar depths. And you can't get to the gold unless you're willing to sift through the grime. Like hit-and-run drivers, Tillich said, we injure our souls by the speed with which we move on the surface, and then we rush away, leaving our bleeding souls alone. We miss, therefore, he says, our depth and our true life. Well, my friends, what does it mean to live out of the depths of ourselves? Out of the depths I cry to thee, O Lord. wrote the psalmist. The depth of our being refers to that inner core of ourselves, that deep down inside ourselves place where we feel things deeply and profoundly. The dark desires and passions of our buried rage against life, and also the light-filled seeds of wholeness and hope crying to unflower themselves within us. To live constructively in depth means to face oneself with openness and honesty, and to say yes to what one finds there. Wow. Even if it be terrible inadequacies, seething hatreds, burning passions, paralyzing fears, and existential loneliness. Not to acquiesce therein, but rather to accept these things as part of our humanity that needs to be transformed, helped, healed, and loved into something better. All women and men cast a shadow, and those who presumably do not are empty and shallow without substance. But a religion of depth reveals to us our shadow and lets us see it without shame. And in embracing our dark side, we discover that nothing human is alien to our own nature. Neither good nor evil. And in that discovery, we learn the meaning of compassion and humility. In the depths, we discover the source of our ultimate concern and the questions that point to the spiritual longings of the soul. What is the purpose of my life? And who am I really, and where am I going? To what or whom am I responsible for my life? And why do I at times sense something holy, mysterious, and infinite beyond myself? What's that all about? These questions point to the spiritual and mystical strivings of the soul, which are part of who we are in our physical and in our sexual drives and hungers, as well as in our more peaceful, compassionate aspects. Clinton Lee Scott, great Universalist preacher, once said that a chief cause of many forms of neuroses in our times is the want of a basic religious philosophy of life. Things and events, he said, do not break us. We go to pieces because they bring to life a breakable philosophy, or no philosophy at all. And it was Jung, you may remember, who said that none of his patients who were really healed until they had recovered a religious or spiritual dimension to their lives through direct experience. The anxiety about life and death, which we all feel and which we must come to terms with, are profoundly religious concerns, which the individual needs to resolve in relationship to the universe, to life, to God or the divine that is both within and beyond the self. A religion of depth is one that connects us with the deeper sources of life and being within us and beyond us. Yes, there are at least two dimensions to the religious life, the outer and the inner, and both are necessary. Either one without the other is incomplete and inadequate. The outer aspect of the religious life has to do with its expression in communal worship and collective ritual, and its application in our social and cultural life. This is the realm of values and social ethics. We can call this a religion of breadth because it seeks to reach out and encompass the total fabric of human life in community. Tillich also noted that depth psychology has its counterpart in what he called a sociology of depth that seeks to uncover the cries of the victims of our social and political system who have been hurt, abandoned, or ignored by policies of indifference and greed. A religion of depth calls us to become aware of this shadow side of our social and political structures, no less than the shadow side of our psyches and our souls. One is a reflection of the other. In the last analysis, soul and society reflect one another. In the depths of human history, we find the human longing for a realm of love and justice, peace and reconciliation, which prophets of old have called the kingdom or the realm of God. It is a hope that is born out of struggle and suffering of countless generations of people everywhere. And to get to that hope, we have to embrace and heal the suffering, both our own and others. Well, our UU Religious Fellowship is by intent and practice a church with many open doors, many roads leading to spiritual reality, both traditional and uncharted ways. A free church for free souls and souls longing to be free. Here we may nurture the needs of our spirits and tend to the religious dimension of our being, unencumbered by restrictive creeds that may cramp the soul or limit the reach of the mind. Only that is, if we will dare to venture out into our own deeps and seek communion with that which is deeper than ourselves and beyond ourselves, because it is the very life of the universe and the light of the stars. Through a sense of communion with our deeper selves and with the source of our existence, we can, as Evelyn Underhill once stated, prevent that terrible freezing up of the deep wells of our being. Through communion with the deep life within us, without us, and beyond us, we reach out and we touch the universal life of the world and the universal being of God and all. As the Greek philosopher Plato once said, the just person sets his or her house in order, gaining mastery over oneself, molding the many within into one, temperate and harmonious. Well, such is the deep thoughts, soul work that each of us is called to do here and now and everywhere. In this age of increasing polarization and divisiveness across the political spectrums, such a task will not be easy. We have learned that we shall never build a healthy society with sick souls and distraught spirits, nor can we nurture healthy souls in a sick and conflict-ridden society. Soul and society create and sustain one another. A religion of depth leads us into the inner life of every soul in order to relate more constructively with the outer life of all humanity. May now each of us nurture and discover our own religion of depth in concert with others. And in so doing, may we discover with the ancient prophet that neither life nor death, nor height nor depth shall be able to separate us from the source of love that brought us into being and sustains us all our days. So may it be. Blessed be. Amen. Mysterious presence, source of all. Hymn number 92. Of life, oh, hear our call, and pour thy living waters in. Breathest in the rushing wind, thy spirit nor wilt thou from the weary mind withhold thy light and love and power. Thy hand unseen to acts of spirit, touch the lips of training heart, and living songs of praise be heard. And now let us bless one another and keep one another. Let us make our faces shine upon one another. Let us lift up the light of our countenances upon one another. And in the great adventure of living, give each other peace and joy and love, both now and forevermore. Blessed be. Amen. Amen.